Hi, everybody. Hello, everyone. My name is Brian Donovan. Welcome to World IA Day at Kent, my alma mater from about 15 or so years ago. And this is the first time I've been back to the campus in 15 years. It's changed a lot. It's kind of nice. How many Kent alums do we have? All right, cool. How many professionals in the audience? Most. Students? Great, good to see you guys. As I mentioned, my name is Brian Donovan. I'm an Associate Director of UX Strategy at an agency that's based in Columbus, Ohio. And
Juan Pasquer, Senior UX Strategy, work together.
We're both on, as you can see, we're both on the UX team. A little bit about our company. Resource Emirati we're an integrated agency. We've been around for over about 30 years almost, 30 years, with our roots in the digital sphere. We've since expanded beyond that and do all sorts of advertising work, but we still have like a very strong core of digital development and design, as well as implementation for our clients. We have offices in Columbus, Cincy, Chicago, and New York. And we are, what else to say about us? I guess we work with clients like, Nestle, Limited Brands, Microsoft, Autodesk.
Victoria's Secret, Sherwin-Williams.
Yep, Sherwin-Williams in the back. And we're gonna sort of keep it casual today. It's a small room with a lot of people in it, so if you have questions, just shout them out, and we'll just sort of have a conversation about serendipity.
Also, I'm a graduate from the UX Masters, so cool to be here.
And I'm not. I'm a designer. I went through VCD. So, as you saw in the notes, we're going to be talking about serendipity today. We believe that humans are naturally creative and curious. And so we became inspired about this idea of designing serendipity into our user experiences a while ago, and we thought we'd come share a point of view with you all on that. The reason we think it's connected to the topic of today, which is happiness, is that serendipity is an inherently rewarding thing for us as humans. We love to make uncommon connections between things. We love to solve our own puzzles, and so we think that as designers, and I'm going to use that term sort of broadly, not in terms of visual, but literally people that make things for other people to use, in the broadest sense, which probably applies to most of us in this room. We think there is an opportunity to share our creativity with others, but even more importantly, allow their own creativity to come to life. We're going to talk through 4 principles of that. Very simply, we're going to talk about what is it, why is it so compelling to us and important to business, how do we design it, and then how do we build client advocacy for something as esoteric as serendipity, which is often synonymous with unpredictability, which is sort of not something that we typically love in the business world. So what is it? What is it, Juan?
Yeah, so Brian comes with this idea to me and says serendipity. I didn't even know what the word mean at that point, but I said it sounds cool. Let's do it. So the first thing I do.
We made it up.
We made it up. So I went to Google, of course. I found information about these and tried to get to the origin of the actual word, and I found this. This is a story that summarizes the origin of the word. So there was once a kingdom where a king had 3 sons, and this king found experts in every field and teach these sons with a lot of knowledge. And then these guys became very intelligent and smart. They knew about many things. So the king tells them that he's gonna resign and they need to take over the kingdom. And they say, no, Dad, you're wiser than us. You should still go in with the thing. And he's like so proud that, okay, that's a smart decision. These guys are really smart. So he sends them he sends them into a journey to gain empirical knowledge. And they have multiple adventures on the way, and until they reach into another area, another kingdom, and they meet an emperor. So this emperor tells them the story of he falling in love with a beautiful slave girl, but they have some sort of fight, an issue where she questioned his honor, and then he was angry and he abandoned her in the woods, and then he came back, and then he realizes he made a mistake, and he was worried about that. She sent people to get her, and they didn't find her. So he got very depressed, ill. He was devastated about that, and these three princes, they became friends with this emperor and get to know him very well. And then he created a task for him. So the task was essentially this all makes had some payout at the end, believe me. So these guys created this task for him, and he needs to go to 7 these different important cities around his kingdom. And then in each city, he's to build a palace, live there for 1 week, get the best storyteller in town, and ask him to tell him his best story. And there he goes. He goes city by city. As he progresses through the cities, he's recovering from his depression. He's getting better. He feels well. And when he reaches the 7th city, he meets this guy, the storyteller in town. And these guys start talking to him and telling this story about a powerful emperor that gets in love with this poor enslaved girl. And this was so romantic that they have an issue, and then he realizes, hey, that's my own story. Do you happen to know that girl? Yes, I know her. So he found it at the end through the storyteller in the 7th city. So they got together and they lived happily ever after. All right? So serendipity is the act of finding something incredible while looking for something else. So there is another point from my perspective, and this is just adding to the story. I think there is something interesting about this story. This is my personal take. I think these guys are information architects, right? They actually, we can move on. They architected this experience with a functional and an emotional layer, because this guy going through this journey, the functional part of it, he was getting better, right, after his depression. But at the end, they somehow put that emotional layer, because they knew it was very probable that he was going to stumble upon a powerful love story. So there are 3 things they knew before architecting that. And they knew the 7 palaces would cure his problems, which were very related to insomnia, because there was no trace of the woman in the woods. They knew she was alive. And by hearing 7 incredible stories, one of them was bound to be a powerful love story. So this is our data, our analytics, right? This is the architecture of the experience, and this is the emotional layer that they bake into the journey that they created. So that's our work.
The name of the village was Serendip, which is the origin of serendipity. So now on to business. This website that is really hard to see on this projector is called genius.com. Is anyone familiar with Genius? All right. So this is a lyrics website, and unlike other lyrics websites that show up better on this projector, Genius, whose primary function is to help people find lyrics to songs, very functional purpose. Genius is a platform for users to interpret, annotate, and discuss lyrics, oftentimes debate the meaning of lyrics. So they've taken something very straightforward and functional and reimagined it as a platform for users to be creative on top of others' creative work. It's a persistent collaboration. So just like the village of Serendip, the users, in the story of Serendip, the users set out on a specific mission to find lyrics, but are often sidetracked by this beautiful and unexpected debate and discussion around the meaning of those lyrics. So why is that compelling? Intuitively, I think we would all understand that that's kind of fun and interesting, but we think that we could boil the compelling nature of serendipity down to two principles: puzzles and creativity. Come on in. or don't. Puzzles and creativity. First, let's talk about puzzles. Solving puzzles is often about finding uncommon connections between things, such as crime novels, crosswords, Sudoku, movies, solitaire. And when we engage with these puzzles, we're making uncommon connections, which is really fun for our brains. Every time we make a little connection like that, an unexpected moment, we get a little rush of dopamine, and that's a reward for making that connection. Our brains are actually highly developed to be good at making those types of connections. So solving puzzles, we believe, is inherent in our humanity. And when you take away the opportunity to solve a puzzle, for example, how often do you cheat at solitaire? It just doesn't make any sense, right? The point of it is to solve puzzles. When you take away that example, the level of engagement goes down. Creativity. We are also creative creatures, and we love to use our innate creativity to make things, whether it's building a bench, doing artwork, or curating a collection on Pinterest. We are making something. So all of these activities are about being creative to bring something into existence. Solving puzzles and being creative are compelling because they are part of what makes us human. And many of our users are starving for more opportunities to solve puzzles in their daily life and be creative, because in our modern life, we don't do as much of this as we used to, like having to find a tree to climb up when we're being chased by lions, for example. That's an important puzzle to solve. This is where design comes in. So we'd like you to imagine that perhaps in certain situations, our job as designers is to create a platform to enable serendipity, as opposed to just giving people the answer or solving their functional need. So much like those three kings sent the sad king on his journey, we can send people on journeys that are designed and architected in a way that we believe will lead to our outcome, but allows unexpected things to happen to help our users become more engaged in our experiences. I mentioned Pinterest earlier. We think that this data slide, we think this data is really telling in terms of the importance of facilitating creativity. The average female user posts 42 pins in year 1 on Pinterest, but by year 4 she's up to 152 pins a year. 4 years to be engaged in any simple platform is a long time, increasingly less so with Facebook and Instagram. But we think that this level of engagement and the fact that that line goes in that direction, the other line is men, by the way. We're like, it's just all about canning, delete. But we think that's really interesting, and we think that's really telling. The fact that people love to say, "Oh, this is wonderful. I'm going to bring these bits and pieces into a new context," and stumble upon things that we weren't expecting. So now we're going to talk about how we design serendipity.
Yeah. So I want to start by saying that there's no recipe or magical formula for it. So, and I hate when I see other talks and they start with that, because I always expect to give me the solution, right? Give me the formula, but there's not. We have frameworks, we have exercises, we have strategic view, we have our vision components, our architecture components. Our frameworks work well as they are, and they keep evolving, and we keep changing our methodologies and evolving these exercises that we do. I think in this case, it's mostly about fine-tuning certain things at certain points that will take you to a next level where you can easily, or at least find more opportunities to inject an emotional component into a functional experience. So there are three key things, and we wanted to keep it very simple and straightforward. Three bubbles: get to know your users. We all hear about it many times. Empower your team and surprise your users. So I'm going to explain what are the key areas where I feel we need to inject or do more work. So get to know your users. We have, at least from our agency perspective, there are many cases where a strategic documentation come over the fence from our companies, right? Sometimes when we are working in a project, we get this folder that says top secret. You open that, this is your target, this is the location, this is going to be your team, and then you go and execute and complete that mission. So what we do often is get a lot of documents, a lot of PowerPoint and Excel files from strategy, analytics, and we try to sit down and consume these texts. Depending on how much time do we have, the speed varies, and then distill all that down into a UX strategy that we will use as fuel to create our vision and then execute it. One key thing that I have noticed is sometimes we get persona documents that may come in the form of one slide, the typical demographic, behavior, website, preferred mobile apps, things like that. That might come in a form of one slide or 30 slides. We have seen it all. So it's hard sometimes to get that profile so dry. So I think the key piece in the first point is get to know your users better, connect more personally with them, right? I think that's very important that we talk to them, go through the processes that they have to deal with. If they deal with forms, if they deal with manual process, if they deal with the fact for a product selection to go to 3 stores, physical stores, try to yourself go through those type of processes and create some sort of empathy between what they have to go through and understanding that, leaving that actually changes things, and you discover interesting facts. We'll show a particular case at the end that where we have to do that exercise and definitely changes.
Yeah.
Your perspective.
Yeah, definitely. It's hard when we frame it as we need to do primary research with a client, because they say we've done all the primary research we can have, and we've got a closet full of it and nobody's using it. So there are high fidelity ways we can get at that empathy, and there are low fidelity ways we can get at that empathy. Even just doing like a social search about like what are people tweeting about in regards to this brand, what might be some of their issues. So there are scrappy ways to get it and high fidelity ways to get it. But the bottom line is get users to tell you their stories, because this will fuel empathy and it will fuel the design for them.
So second point, it's once you have gone through this exercise of really trying to closely connect with them and get extra information that is outside, beyond the persona slide, and share that with your team, share that with your stakeholders. Try as much as possible to have an in-person work session with them, and tell them your story. Tell them what you discovered when you went into the stores, when you called the 800 number and you had to wait 15 minutes for someone to talk to you. Like, show them examples, show them pictures, videos, audio, so they can also create that empathy with them as you have created, so they can really understand that other perspective that these decks with hundreds of pages doesn't show sometimes.
Yeah. There's, because the work we do is often detailed and requires rigor and requires structure and documentation, it is easy for us personally to lose touch with that user by the time we're engaging the rest of the team in what we're trying to build here. I also, as a designer, admitted design background, remember early in my career getting documentation from an information architect and a sitemap and all of that, and thinking, what am I supposed to do with this? I don't, what? This doesn't really help me design something really compelling for people. And so I think that we think that documentation, we all know about the importance of that, but augmenting it with, like, truly empathizing with the end user, getting to know the pain in the heart of that guy we're going to send on their journey, is the key way to empower your team. And doing that collaboratively as opposed to sort of passing off a document, we found that to be really, really successful. That might be literally sitting down with the user or sharing videos, as Juan mentioned, and then immediately starting to wireframe their experiences with the cross-functional team on a whiteboard, if for no other reason than to get everyone engaged in designing for that end user. So any thoughts from the group on that, on some of these concepts?
I have a question.
Yeah, sure.
When you interview your users, you have different calibers of users. You have the high power users, and then you have some that just want you to spoon feed them totally. So after you have all these different personalities and these different users, and then you get into your design, what level do you go?
Yeah, I think I'll restate your question to see if I understand it. So we have different levels of, varying levels of expertise with our users in terms of technical expertise or content expertise. Is that the question? Yeah, how do you design for all of them? Yeah, sort of formal logic would say shoot for the middle, you know, like write everything at a 5th grade level like a newspaper, because then everybody can understand it. I would actually say that something that is specific like that, progressive disclosure can help us address those needs. So just like this computer, the largest button on it is the power button. Somebody who doesn't know how to use a computer will probably press that button, you know. Then the next level of detail is somebody who has mid-level expertise, a keyboard, all the way down to, you know, the code panel that expert users can use. So I would say that the way to sort of address all of those needs is provide progressive disclosure to varying levels of detailed functionality, so that the power users can get through it quickly, and the non-power users can become introduced and become more expert as they engage with your software or website.
And that is kind of a per case scenario where sometimes you are dealing with a project that you have different targets within your audience. Within your target audience might be, you have maybe from an expertise perspective, these are novice users, these are more robust and expert users that need more advanced functionality. But in other cases, it might be that these users have totally different needs that they have. They both have the same expertise and knowledge. They are both young and know how to use mobile devices. Everyone knows how to use mobile devices today, but you know, it might be something like this is a more VIP user or a platinum member that requires certain services from us, and this is a different user that requires maybe lower or less services. So how do we guide them and create different paths that are personalized for their needs, right? So in every case, what we want to state here is that we should have a closer connection, not just getting the slides, because we sometimes when we have multiple targets, we might be dealing with 4 different user types within an experience. The new owner of this product, the guy that has 10 years using these and has different needs or whatever, right? So we get those slides with those different segments, but it's not about getting the information at that point. It's about connecting deeply with them, and even in a more informal way where you can have a conversation over the phone and you discover really, really cool things. So one quick example is we had this case of a platinum membership offering from one of our clients, And when we call these platinum members, the first thing they say is, I don't know why I am considered a platinum. I was before a standard member, and then I upgraded, and then I go to the website again, and I see the same thing, exactly the same. There's no change, there's no new offerings, where all these things that were listed in a bulleted, beautiful page that they told me they were going to give me. So then you get the real conversations going on, and you feel that, and when you show that to stakeholders, they say, oh, okay. You know, there's a discovery moment, and that's where we need to go deeper into connecting them.
Yeah.
Good.
How do you, how do you justify the cost of better usability when it's really simple to throw something on SharePoint and have no emotional connection to the data versus taking that time to understand your users and having your BI team doing different sets of data and displaying it in different ways and
Yeah.
almost custom coding things versus using stuff that's readily available out of the box and cheap and quick and easy.
Yeah. I would say that there are we sort of bucket it into two different approaches. So early in the project, we're going to talk about prototyping in just a little bit, but early in the project, we're all about using like existing tools, whatever we've got, InVision, whatever we need to do to quickly get to a low fidelity yet instructive prototype to do usability research, where we're just trying to understand the user's perspective and gain new insights about how they might interact with something. Simple example, we were building a recipe website, and I threw together a really quick paper prototype on a mobile device and showed it to users, and they said, oh, this feels all right, but I need to see ratings on the tile, because ratings are how I decide what recipe to make. That simple insight from an almost no cost paper prototype got us going. So that would be usability research. We would call that usability research at resource. Then there's usability testing, which comes sort of downstream, and the goal of that testing in our minds is less about gaining insight to inform our work than it is about sort of de-risking the actual like launch or rollout of a product. So at that point, when you say the word de-risking, people are like, yes, I will pay for that. You're going to de-risk my e-commerce relaunch? Sweet. But really that different mindset, that alone, and framing it in that way, helps sort of make the case for like, this isn't research, this is testing, and we're testing this to help you be more successful in your business, to make sure people can actually click through this thing and purchase it. We're in the middle of a big e-commerce redesign where our client is doing a number of things online now. So it's not just shopping online, ship to me, it's buy online, pick up in store, buy online, ship to store, reserve online, pick up in store. There's all sorts of different scenarios. And if you throw all of that at the checkout, it's like a tax form trying to help somebody purchase something. So those are the kind of instances where we did some upfront research to figure out, oh, users don't see any distinction between buy online, pick up in store and buy online, ship to store. Because those are essentially operational terms that our client is using to describe the difference between inventories at the store now and inventory can be shipped to that store ready for you in 2 days. So that upfront research taught us, erase that distinction. It's all buy online. You're buying it online and you're picking it up in the store, and the only difference is how long it's going to take until it's ready. So upfront, and now we're on the usability testing portion where we have coded things from a front end dev standpoint, and we're showing it to users and asking them to click and talk aloud and see if they get off track. So does that answer? That's a really long answer. How was that? How was that for you?
That was pretty good.
It was great. We hope it was good for you. Surprise your users.
The middle point, it's about the typical exercises I do, right? Sketching, putting that on paper, creating concept maps. All the fun part happens in the middle, right? It's architecting and wireframing and creating user flows. And if you can do it together, awesome. If you can involve more people there, awesome. If there is a higher empathy of that with users, perfect. Here is where we deliver whatever we architect. And by the way, here's the testing and validation of your approach happening, which is a very good component, proving yourself that this approach is valid, and then showing that to your stakeholders and going through that iteration. We all know what happens in that part. This part is all about the delivery of that experience, and then tracking. Again, from our perspective as an agency, sometimes we deliver the experience, we might code it or not, and then we might lose track of it for 1 year or 6 months or whatever. So it's important for us to deliver a tracking plan, so whoever owns these can track analytics and usage, and then we can evolve the experience to make it better. So that's our point at UXers is always iterating and launching new versions that are very like trying to perfectionate our approach. So the tricky piece here, you're surprising your users with something that is functional and might have some emotional component, elevating that experience and making it more personal, making them happy, hopefully. And the interesting thing about this point is that they can surprise you back. So sometimes you deliver an experience and these users use it in a way that it was not really how you intended to be, but then it opens a new opportunity for you to expand on that. So let's say these guys from the lyric side, they posted this common area, but the core point was about the lyric. And let's say they discover through usage that this was getting more robust, and maybe they changed that common area to this side to give it more prominence. And then let's say in a future iteration, they added the functionality of adding pictures into comments and make that area more robust. So this is how connecting with your user and understanding their behaviors once you have launched the surprise, you can also take advantage of those learnings to evolve that experience.
Yeah. We think both of those examples, so Genius.com that we shared with you, and Pinterest, both of those are examples of framing something as creating opportunities for others to create. So Pinterest, imagine if Pinterest, the designers of Pinterest had framed it as, we want to create an online software for people to make collections for themselves. That would be interesting somewhat, but that extra layer of, we want to create an online community for people to make collections for themselves that are shared with others, that really helped that take off. Genius also, we have a website that people can access lyrics through, versus we have a website where people can annotate and discuss and add their own sort of creativity to lyrics. So the framing is really, really important, and that's what we're trying to proselytize, is think about serendipity. So in summary to this, it's really empathy, collaboration, and then feedback from end users. Empathy, collaboration with your team, and then feedback ongoing with your users to reinform your business opportunities in the context of how they're using that platform. So, how do we create client advocacy for designing serendipity? Dear client, we want to make something that where we will intentionally not know the outcome. That's sort of risky to them. Anybody who's running a business is going to have an adverse reaction to that, understandably, because they have serious responsibilities to revenue, to their organization. But as we've seen, there are compelling and valuable serendipity-driven experiences out there. that are tremendously successful. So rather than sort of simply extol the virtues of it like we're doing here, we think that we as architects of this should practice what we preach. So helping clients experience those moments is the best way to get them on board. So instead of sort of presenting it as a very, technical approach or a very, logical approach, if we can make prototypes early and help people feel that experience of putting two things together or creating something on their own, we can unlock their own creativity, and they'll start to inherently sort of sense the value of that and connect the dots to their own business. We've got an example of a prototype that we built for a client, and we had it all blocked out so you couldn't see what the client was, but we got permission just this morning that we could show it, so it'll look nicer than it did last night. So I'm gonna let Juan take it away and talk us through his prototype that we use to help users understand this.
So we're gonna talk about cat litter.
Now we're getting to the sexy stuff.
I got this folder, like the top secret folder that I mentioned before. This is your tasks right now, right? I open that, I get all the documentation as I was mentioning before, and this happens very often. I got probably around 6 presentations, PowerPoint presentations. Some were so heavy that didn't go through email, so I have to download it in other ways and explore these data about how users go and buy litter in store and hundreds of pages, and it was really heavy and reading in a way that was really kind of hard to read also. So I went in a mission, kind of in a discovery mission, and tried to connect with cat owners, watch a ton of YouTube videos, laughed a lot too, and discover and try to connect directly or closely with these users and their experience. So one of the things I did immediately was trying to look at the current experience. How do they complete that experience today? And you go to this website, and you have, this is a responsive site, so you can get it scales to your phone, and you have these 2, 6, 8, 7 drop downs, which are asking you to go through, do you want your litter to clump? I didn't even know what clump means, right? I need to search it, maybe because my English, but I didn't realize that it gets together quickly. But maybe I'm a new user and I have this kitten and I don't know, right? So in my first time I need to buy this because now I have this little kitten here, and that's my first question. So I'm abandoning the site to start researching and learning about these questions, which this should be pretty straightforward, right? And then what kind of container works best? Don't know either, right? It's very complex for me as a new user. How do you feel about cleaning? Where do you keep the boxes? What do you mean boxes? Do I need multiple? What are you talking about? What material does your cat prefer? That's, I mean, how am I supposed to know that? So what type of cat do you have? Okay, that's fair enough. And what do you need? What do you need most? And then as soon as you click on 1, 2, or 3 questions, then it filters down, and then you have your solutions. But just going through that type of questions require a lot of thinking into how do I respond to that. So I went to the store. Let's see if I'm more lucky going to the store. I go in my mission. I go with my wife. She's cleaning shopping. I go there. I go to the aisle, shelf, 16 different options, multiple sizes, and then I start reading the features of each product, and they all look very similar, right? Scent control, power for scent control, 24/7, all day long. They all these features, it's overload of information and really, really complicated to differentiate those. So my initial thinking was, I wish a cat expert would be between me and the shelf, and I can just talk to him and asking, hey man, I just got this new kitten, and I don't know what type of litter do I want. Can you help me? And this guy would be very friendly and would ask me 5, 6 questions about me, and then this is what you need. So easy, right? So that's what we strive for. By the way, I took 20 pictures or so of this process of going to Walmart and Target and having these hard experiences. This is plus all the strategic work that was already in place. So I'm not ignoring all that data that they sent me. We created summaries and strategic approaches of that documentation. But this is kind of the extra components, the extra mile that sometimes we need to go and complete ourselves to live it, to create that empathy. So we got together with stakeholders. I showed them all these pictures, tell them this story. They understand and they face the reality of the cumbersome process that it is today. I show them these questions and we go through again and we articulate and speak it out loud, and then you realize the complexity of the current process. And then we went and had this whiteboarding session and created a concept map. All the elements are involved. Is your house, is the trip to the store, is all these features, how are you making connections, what is most important. And then we did a 6x6 exercise where I hand papers to everyone there. Don't matter your role, don't matter who you are, just grab that paper, draw some lines, create 6 boxes, and think about, from your perspective, how would you solve this issue, right? Some interesting points, maybe it's a flow, maybe if you're more graphical, you draw stuff. And then we came to a lot of good ideas, now that we are more empathetic with our users. So we are actually currently in development of a new version of this selector, and I want to show you a couple of screens and how these turn out. So we created a couple of questions that were more user-friendly and tried to be more conversational in our approach and focused. There are another experience components, let's say from a UI perspective, that are taken into account. This is not only how you communicate words, it's also how you interact with this tool. So a lot of users would go into the shelf, face in front of these multiple options, and they will pull their phone and just find the selector, and they will just, we were thinking when this scales into a responsive side, you can just read one question and use one finger to answer. So that was the goal, instead of like tapping, getting a drop down, and then scanning through and selecting. So the idea behind here is one tap per screen. So tap, 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 6 times, and you get the result. So there is a lot of negotiation with the legal department and a lot of politics in terms of how do we word, what's the right branding, is this our real voice and tone, how do we frame it? All that politics really happen, and we constantly push for having friendly language as much as we could. So the first one is more like simpler. You like traditional brands, product with added sense, or an extra boost of more powerful products. If we go to the next one, then how do you feel about green products? It's very important to me, or it's not my main concern. Let's be honest, right? Again, one tap per question. Then we go into, what's your definition of a clean litter box? Something that I scoop regularly, I have to constantly clean it up, or something that I just don't care much about very often, and I just do it once a week or so. And so what's running around your house, that's pretty straightforward, kid and cat or both. And this is a tricky one that I just learned. This was so fun. I was reading about, this is really important to, like, the difference between a kitten and a cat for clumping litter. And then I'm doing all this research, and again, this is extra, this is at home. And I found out that if you have clumping litter, the little kittens can eat that. So, or they eat it and then it clumps in the belly, so it's dangerous. And we exposed that to the clients in our session, and they were not like 100% sure. And then we said, like, Google it, it's real. So like some people, and we were talking about cat experts, right? we're not completely sure about these things. So it's interesting how much you can find out
Yeah.
if you do that extra.
Juan
You go that
started
extra
the
mile.
anti-clump movement that you made.
Right. So if we go to the next one, it's when shopping, I look for something that is the latest innovation on something tried and true. Tidy Cats is known for the expertise and constant innovation and getting these new products with more features and refining those products constantly. They have a lab with these cat experts working in refining these formulas so heavily. So they constantly launch new products. So we wanted a way to lead them in this path to that new innovation, or just something that is classic. How many cats do you have? Pretty straightforward. In terms of quantity, you might need more or less, or the container recommendation might be related to that too. What's your daily life? I'm a homebody. I stay at home all day, so I probably am more worried about cleaning that up, or I'm always on the go. I don't have the chance. I travel three days a week, so that might change our recommendation. And then when it comes to weight, Tidy Cats has some lightweight formulas. It's really easy to carry. So that was another aspect that we needed to include. And then we have your recommendation at the end. So this is not the final concept, but we wanted to elevate this piece where the connection happens at the end, and we say something to you like, when living in a city and carrying everything up to your apartment, this is based on the previous answers, stairs, you need something light. With light, high clumps, that is a scoopable little, it's half the way, but has all the strength that your multiple cats needs. So it's a very personalized message. This is the guide between you and the shelf, giving you the product and explaining why this is the product that you need. And if you could remember all those questions, not many of those were related to product features, right? It was more conversational. So there's a lot of back-end logic happening. We have some tree logic exercises going on to make this possible, but it's uncommon. It's unexpected to have that kind of experience where you're asking common questions and then you have this product just because we know, right?
You may not, so just to go through this again, in great detail very slowly, I'm teasing about that. It's tap, slide, that makes sense, but you're starting to think, why did they ask me that question, then this question, and this question, what's going on behind the scenes? It's like, stopping at every village to get a little story. Tap, and then the unexpected surprise at the end.
I have a question about that. So what if there's products that are similar with the results? So you actually, you're going to show them 2 or 3, or is it just one?
Yeah, and again, that's the piece where this is still, we're working on still this final comp. There was some sort of, I think they have changed the layout of these right now, but this area is supposed to give you the runner-up, what we call the runner-up. So additional similar products that may be also applicable to your needs. So these might, maybe in the latest comp, I haven't seen the latest, but these might be more prominent.
You'll also notice here that we've given them this simple little experience of making connections between things, and now the user's thinking, oh, now I kind of understand why they asked me those questions. That was kind of fun. And I can quickly find a store. So we're getting them into the store right at this moment. So we've given them this little rush of dopamine, and now we're saying, get to the store. And it's something very simple, which is specifically why we chose it to share with you, rather than a big features calculator for Microsoft that we're working on. It's like, this is so simple, and it's just more fun. And it was risky for Purina, for Tidy, because they were used to thinking about litter as the business and the science behind litter. Clumping, containers, cleaning, quantity, material, the feel of the material. And we helped it be more about the user in the way that they would in the way that they would talk about caring for their cat. And we are about out of time. Yes, question?
Did you provide an area where cat owners can give feedback about the different types of litter, like their comments and their rankings, so that people can read those before they make their decision?
Yeah, there's a couple ways to approach that. Increasingly, we're moving those conversations are happening out on social channels.
Okay.
And so instead of putting that in the context of choosing litter, users' natural pattern is to go to Twitter to have those conversations, or Facebook, or Instagram. And so monitoring those social properties is where that feedback loop sort of comes back in. Yeah.
I just had a quick question about the way that you're coming through. I like the content a lot. Is that something that you are doing, or are you like, well, we've got a content team that thinks about SEO, or they're the copywriters and we're not allowed to say what the copy is and we have to design with lorem ipsum and then they fit it in?
No, we are trying to take an approach where we use less and less lorem ipsum, and we strive, since we have these connections and we have these conversations with closer connection with users, we try to strive to put something there that makes more sense.
So you're coming up with it?
And then,
Yeah.
yes, so then we have copywriters and our creative team supporting and polishing that out. My English is not 100% good, so they, of course, but they're really
And
creative.
neither is mine, even though I grew
And
up
again,
in
there's that
Akron.
conversation with the brand and politics and what we can say, what we can say. There's a whole creative process to come up with these crafted questions, but we get a say into what are we thinking about, right? Those simple questions come with a conversation that anyone can happen in any cat store. So we are trying to avoid using lorem ipsum and getting more into the idea of what we feel needs to be.
Good.
Any other thoughts, questions?
Have you ever tried to like offer a coupon or something at the end to
Yes.
see if there's like a spike in sales or
Yes,
anything?
we wanted to do a lot more. We always think, try to strive for blue sky, and then we get all these constraints and technical limitations, and then scale back, scale back, scale back, scale back, and then this is what we're able to do. I wanted to show the story right away there. I don't think there is a need for an extra step for me to do with my zip code in if I can geolocate you. But we might not have, the brand might not have at that point the capability, the technical capabilities to do that. So we create a list of things that we think can be integrated into the future and phase it out for a future iteration. And then when the technology is in place, we'll shoot for those, and definitely shoot for that coupon, because I think that's even a more compelling surprise, right? This is your recommendation, and by the way, you get 2 off.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Thanks for engaging with us, on this. Thanks for going on
Yeah.
this journey with us, is what we're saying to them by the coupon at the end. Great, thanks, guys. Thank you very much. We're gonna be around all day, so if you have questions or want to connect, let's do it. Brian.
What's the importance of giving them a way to like I guess from a design perspective, why wasn't there anything that said, do you want to change a couple of your options real quick and something pops up? Like what?
To go back and.
Yeah, and not just start over, but to just have something over here that says, maybe you change your mind and you're curious to see what would happen if you flip something. Like why? Or was that a business thing that's kind of political?
We had that discussion.
Okay. And I'm just
We went back and forth.
Hi.
Hi, I'm Carol.
Hi, Carol. I'm
speaking,
Brian.
I'm speaking in this room in a couple
great.
hours. Could I borrow your dongle?
Of course,
Would
yeah,
that be okay with
absolutely,
you?
yeah.
'Cause, I saw you unplug it and I was like,
Oh, okay.
'cause I don't
Need
have
that,
one.
yeah,
So
yeah.
and I will get back to you like right after, or I will find you
Sounds
at some
good.
point. If I don't end up needing it, I'll find you sooner. But
Yeah, no
I'm gonna be
worries.
speaking here. I'm concerned you just plugged it in.
What do you think?
Yeah,
I have a
yeah, that makes sense. So is
same.
Say I brought an HDMI in.
Okay, cool.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
Generally, you don't do
Yeah.
that.
It might be.
You know what? I'm gonna take a
You are.
I'm
So
at
you want something that in hopes of
145.
trying to make it
Okay,
more
beautiful,
effective.
beautiful.
Yes,
Thank you.
thank you very much. I will get back to you.
I think you're fine. This is your
I was gonna buy one last night and I.
Yeah. Where are you from?
I'm from
That's more
Pittsburgh.
like a
I used to live in
Pittsburgh?
Akron actually.
Oh, you
but
did?
I live
Cool.
in Pittsburgh now. Yeah.
How do you
yeah.
like Pittsburgh?
I like it a lot. It's a
Yeah,
great
I love
city.
Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
great town.
yeah. Are you in the Columbus office?
I am. I'm in the
Okay.
Columbus office,
Nice.
and I work across the offices, but
Yeah.
mostly I'm in the Columbus office.
Yeah. Yeah. I used to live in Columbus as well.
Oh yeah?
yeah.
That's kind of an Ohio thing. Is like
Yeah.
everybody goes to Columbus at least for a little bit.
Yeah. I went to Denison, which is
Yep.
south of here, and then ended up in Columbus for a
Nice.
while, and then Akron for a few years. I like the region.
Yeah.
It's nice that now
Yeah.
this is happening so close, right?
I know, it's awesome.
Last year we
yeah.
had to drive to Ann Arbor.
Yeah, I'd never actually been able to come to a World Eye Day, so this
Yeah,
is
this is
really
my first as well.
And we get those different slides that say like presentation from different companies all put together. Sometimes we do they contract us to do those strategic components.
So you
Yeah.
the library kind of switched
Oh, cool. That's a good switch. Yeah. Yeah. Our head of research, our head of yeah, I can do something. Our head of research was a librarian. Yeah, and so, we partner very closely with her because the executional skills around doing primary and secondary research are super relevant to making good user decisions. And so we sit together and we partner very, very closely. And so we're learning from them about research and they're learning from us about usability. So they've done usability studies for us, we've done primary research for them, so it's sort of a nice, it is a very closely related thing.
I got emotionally
Yeah.
scarred a little bit from that experience. So
Yeah, that's
I'm
good.
trying to get back into it, but
It's a hot area right now, like so many agencies are blowing out their, agencies and in-house shops are blowing out their IA or UX.
I just can't find anything about Cleveland. Columbus is hot.
Yeah.
Like overload. They are so busy. It's crazy.
Yeah.
When I master or whatever, it's all Columbus.
Yeah, do you need to stay in Cleveland?
I do.
Yeah,
I
I
live there. I have
understand
babysitting
that.
there.
Yeah.
And commuting.
Yep, I know, I was in Chicago for 10 years and Atlanta for a couple years.
Very interesting
And
too.
it's a little easier.
I think, Columbus was just my cousin, my brother went down there and he never left.
Yeah.
Loves it. We love it there, but we just can't.
Yep.
Or it'd be very risky.
Right. Nice to meet you.
I'm Jen.
Nice to meet you, Jen.
Me too. That was a great question about voice searching too. I never thought about that.
Yeah.
For example, I'm using that little link in the box.
That's gonna be libraries too.
This is a different bag with different stuff in it for speakers and sketch.
Oh.
Yeah.
All right.
Just go talk with me. Don't let me know what it is. Go. That's really people that are succeeding in that are the people that are very I think that's important to see how other people are. Yeah, because you have to be more
I
open
did, I
to people
shared.
and analyze analytical of people, not just material, but people.
Right.
They said that.
Oh, good.
You have to be good, very analytic, but they never mentioned you have to analyze people and their reactions towards the information. They never mentioned anything like that. Yeah.
Well, I have to use the users know what they want. The users who don't, but you gotta read their mind to figure out what it is.
Yeah.
Just wanna get the streaming started.
That's true.
Every somebody needs something.
Oh, it'll still record.
Oh, okay,
Well, everything dynamic moves around and I mean,
In terms of your user research?
But this stuff, I mean, sometimes state board just getting into illicit